SEAL instructor mocked her during PT. Then she broke his unit record without breaking a sweat. Take a good look, gentlemen, because apparently the Navy is now sending us office workers to show us how physical training is done. The words dropped through the pre-dawn air of the PT field like a blade pulled flat across bone. Not a slash, not a strike, just a slow, deliberate scrape that removes whatever was on the surface and leaves something raw and cold underneath. Master Chief Petty Officer Alan Decker does not lower his voice. He never has. 12 years as a Bud S instructor at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado means 12 years of learning exactly what volume carries across open ground, through wind, through rain, through the sound of 52 candidates in genuine physical distress. And his voice has always arrived exactly where he aimed it. He aims it at her. It is 0530. The PT field sits 200 meters from the Pacific, which means the salt is not just in the air. It is in the light, in the concrete of the grinder underfoot, in the texture of every breath at this hour. The overhead lights are still running, sodium yellow against a sky that is not yet committed to morning. 52 candidates stand in formation on the east end of the field, aligned with the specific rigidity of people who have spent 7 weeks learning what happens when the alignment is not precise. They wear matching PT gear. They hold matching postures. They have learned, over 7 weeks, that the things permitted to be individual are very few. She is standing in the second rank, plain Navy PT gear with no name tape, no rank designation, no unit patch of any kind. A deliberate absence that registers to Decker as exactly the kind of administrative irregularity that produces exactly this kind of situation. Hair pulled back in a regulation bun, so tight it reads as structural. 31 years old. Slight in the way that people who move precisely are slight, not small. Calibrated, she is standing in the formation as though she has always been in it. Not adjusting, not fidgeting, not demonstrating any awareness of Decker's position, or his voice, or the 52 people who are now watching her with the careful non-expression of candidates who have learned that visible interest is a liability. She is standing the way a person stands when stillness is not the absence of tension, but the management of it. Something drilled in over a long time. Something that runs below conscious thought the way current runs beneath flat water. Decker steps to the edge of the second rank and directs his next sentence at the space just above her regulation bun. I don't know which unit forgot to sign the correct paperwork, sweetheart, but this is a special warfare PT field, not a cardio class. We have standards here. We have records here. We have men who have earned the right to stand on this ground. He pauses. The deliberate kind of pause, the kind that a man who has performed this role for 12 years uses to let the weight of his words settle over an audience before the next sentence lands. You want to tell me what you're doing on my field? She is looking at the eastern horizon, not at him. Its commander, she says. The same register as the observation of a fact. But call me whatever you need to. Then she returns her attention to the horizon, as though Decker is not the primary element in this situation. The formation does not move. 52 candidates who have learned, over 7 weeks, that the correct response to unexpected silence is to hold position. Over at the east edge of the field, just inside the orange boundary cones that mark the obstacle course approach. Chief Warrant Officer 4 Raymond Callahan stops writing on his clipboard. 61 years old. 34 years of service, which means he has been doing this longer than most of the candidates on this field have been alive. The kind of face that accumulates rather than changes. everything it has witnessed layered into the set of it, the specific patience in the eyes of a man who has watched enough things go wrong to know the difference between the kind of wrong that resolves itself and the kind that does not. He arrived at 0515 to run timing intervals for the obstacle course. He brought coffee. The coffee is going cold. He noticed her the moment she stepped into formation, not her face, how she stood. The specific distribution of weight, balanced in a way that is not the regulation PT stance. Not quite. Slightly forward on the balls of the feet. Hands resting at the sides in the position of someone whose body defaults to a ready posture that does not come from a standard manual. The way her attention, even when directed at the eastern horizon, appeared to cover the entire field. His pen stops moving. His jaw tightens. His eyes narrow. He adds it to a picture he has not yet fully assembled, but can already see the shape of. Decker makes a decision. If she wants to stand on his field, she stands on it the way everyone stands on it. He announces, loud enough for the formation to hear, because the formation always hears, that she will run the obstacle course first, in front of 52 candidates. Before the regular rotation begins, he presents it as a privilege. It sounds like a sentence. "You're up, Commander." He inflects the rank in a way that makes clear he does not believe it. "Show us what you've got." By 0547, the story has already moved through the formation in the way things move through a SEAL candidate formation, sideways, in micro-adjustments of the jaw. In the specific non-expression of 52 people simultaneously trying not to look at what they are all looking at. The consensus, arriving through some collective process that Decker has observed and managed for 12 years, is that she is going to struggle publicly, and the situation will resolve. This is the expected arc. He has watched it resolve this way many times. She walks to the start line. She rolls her neck once. Then she runs her hands through a shoulder mobility sequence, both arms, alternating, working through a range that is not in any standard PT warm-up protocol. The kind of movement that requires not just flexibility, but load tolerance built from specific, accumulated work over a long time. Callahan has seen that sequence once before. It was demonstrated by an instructor at a school in Virginia Beach, whose name he does not use in casual conversation. He had the clearance to attend the demonstration. Most people in the special warfare community do not. His pen is still not moving. 3 stopwatches? She asks the timing instructor. "Yes, ma'am. Run them all." She steps to the line. The first 200 meters are a sprint to the rope tower, where most candidates reveal the gap between what they believe they can do and what the course actually requires. She does not reveal a gap. She covers 200 meters in a time that makes the nearest candidate recorder, who has been running timing intervals for 3 weeks and has a reliable internal sense of pace, look up from his clipboard without intending to. The rope tower, 20 feet of thick manila rope, no assists. The standard approach uses hand-over-hand pull with foot locking at intervals for rest. She uses neither. Her hands move in a pattern of the kind of efficiency that only comes from repetition measured in thousands of iterations, a technique Callahan identifies, after a moment, as a modified maritime infiltration climb used in water approach scenarios. Not taught in this training sequence. Taught at a different tier. A tier with a different clearance designation and a different name. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. During a climb. It is the first time in 34 years that Callahan has watched someone deploy tactical breathing during a physical evolution and have it function as designed. The low crawl section, 40 meters of wet sand under wire at 14 inches of clearance, produces a time that makes the timing instructor check his primary stopwatch against the field clock. because the number does not match what his internal calibration of normal pace has prepared him to expect. She emerges and enters the 4-obstacle sequence without pausing. Not approximately. Not nearly. She does not pause between obstacles at all. The wall she clears with a specific mount technique that is not in the Bud-S instruction manual. The kind of technique that gets drilled in at a different location, for a different application, where clearing an obstacle quietly matters as much as clearing it quickly. The sandbag carry she runs at a pace that makes one of the training staff reach for his stopwatch and then realize it has been running the whole time. At 06:08, she crosses the finish line. 3 stopwatches, 2 candidate recorders, Callahan's own watch, 49 minutes and 7 seconds for the full obstacle course physical assessment, a combined distance and obstacle event that has been the standard unit physical benchmark at this facility since 2013. The current unit record is 53 minutes and 19 seconds. It was set 11 years ago by a Bud/S instructor whose name is on the board in the equipment room at the north end of the field. The name is Decker. She is not breathing hard. She is standing at the finish line with her hands at her sides, in the position her body defaults to when not otherwise directed, looking at the eastern horizon in exactly the direction she was looking at 0530. 52 candidates are not moving. The timing instructor looks at his stopwatch, then at the field clock, then back at his stopwatch. His hands are doing something slightly involuntary. Callahan writes something on his clipboard, then underlines it, then underlines it again. Something flickers across his face, just for a heartbeat. Then it settles into the specific stillness of a man who has completed a calculation and is now deciding what to do with the result. Something about this woman. He had been adding pieces to the picture since 0515. The picture now had a shape he recognized. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. Decker's response is immediate and procedural. Before the timing data can be formally entered into the record, before the candidate recorders can finish their logs, before Callahan can do anything with what he has just written, Decker moves the situation into the channel where he has guaranteed authority. He has already documented the irregularity, no official assignment orders on file at this facility. Her presence on the PT field constitutes unauthorized use of a classified training area. He is the senior instructor. He has authority to remove her pending documentation review. He is not wrong about any of this. He is wrong about what it will cost him. He pulls her from the field at 0613 and escorts her to the administrative building at the north end of the complex. She does not argue. She does not look at the formation as she walks. She does not acknowledge the board where her time is now written. The record is on the board. 3 stopwatches confirmed it. Behind her, 52 candidates stand in the specific silence of people who have witnessed something and do not yet have the framework to process it. By 0640, Decker has gathered his 4 senior instructors in the war room on the 2nd floor of the administrative building, not the training bay, the command office, where the records board lives and the documentation files for every candidate in the current cycle are stacked in labeled binders. He presents the situation as a documentation irregularity. Her assignment orders reference an administrative unit that does not appear in the NSWC organizational structure at any tier he has access to verify. He presents this as the kind of wrong that resolves itself once the correct paperwork channels are engaged. His hands flatten on the table as he says this. His jaw is tight. Something in the room knows he is performing certainty he does not fully have. At the east edge of the PT field, Callahan sets down his clipboard and makes a phone call. He stands with his back to the field and speaks for approximately 8 seconds before hanging up. His jaw tightens, his eyes narrow. He picks the clipboard back up, looks at what he has underlined, and does not write anything more. 44 candidates in the formation have not moved since she left the field. The timing instructor has not updated the board. Nobody is looking directly at the record written there. Nobody can look away from it for long. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. The holding room in the administrative building is 9 feet by 11. Cinder block walls painted the institutional white of every administrative space at every military base she has been in, on every continent. A folding table. 2 metal chairs. A single window set at eye level showing the east side of the parking area and the concrete barrier of the base perimeter beyond it. The smell of coffee from down the corridor and, underneath it, the older permanent smell of processed air and paperwork that has been there since the building was built and will be there long after everyone in it is gone. She sits. She does not pace. She does not examine the door. She checks her watch. This is the near-fail moment. Anyone watching from the outside would call this finished. Her PT credentials are in Decker's documentation packet. Her facility access ID is in an evidence folder. Her cover assignment is being processed through an administrative channel that will find an irregularity designed to look like a clerical error. Because clerical errors require escalation, and escalation is precisely what she needs. Not yet. Not nearly. Decker thinks he is managing a paperwork problem. He is actually initiating a sequence he does not have the clearance to understand and cannot stop. Her watch reads 0627. In 19 minutes, at 0646, the performance record entered in the field log will auto-populate to the Naval Special Warfare Command Physical Performance Database. The algorithm that manages that database is calibrated for the range of times produced by operators at this level of training. Her time falls 3 minutes and 42 seconds outside that range on the fast end. The system will generate an anomaly flag and route an ID verification request to a clearance tier that has a different name from the standard tier, and that Decker has never encountered in 12 years at this facility. In 61 minutes, at 0728, that verification request will be returned. Not from the expected database office, from a level above the Naval Special Warfare Commanding Officer, from a directorate that does not appear in the public organizational chart. It will arrive attached to a notification that vehicles are already en route. In approximately 93 minutes, at approximately 0900, this facility will have visitors. The kind of visitors that do not call ahead because calling ahead implies they need permission. Her watch is still on her wrist. Decker's team logged her PT credentials and her access ID. Nobody processed her watch. She had planned for that specifically. She plans for most things specifically. 7 years ago, 11 operators from a classified assault element were killed in Helmand Province in a mission listed in its official aftermath as an equipment failure. She knows what it was. The investigation was sealed before it could conclude. The man who sealed it is 3 names above Decker on her list. Decker is the access point, the connection between this training pipeline and the intelligence that has been moving through it for 4 years, feeding candidates' psychological profiles, physical performance assessments, and operational readiness data to a network that asks for very little that is dramatic enough to register. She has been on base for 14 days. She has what she needs. Today was the last day. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. The window shows the empty parking area. For now. At 0649, Callahan appears at the holding room window. He does not enter and does not speak. He stands at the glass for a moment in the posture of a man who has finished assembling a picture and is looking at the completed version. Then he walks away. His jaw is set. His hands, at his sides, are steady. At 0710, Decker opens the door with his legal officer and a personnel coordinator. He presents the documentation review results across the folding table, hands resting flat on the surface, voice in its lower theatrical register, the one he uses when he needs a room to understand that softness is not the same as accommodation. Your assignment orders reference a unit that does not exist in this command's organizational structure. They exist at the tier above your access level, Colonel. Verification contact is in the documentation packet. I tried the listed contact. Page 4 has a secondary. Page 4 has a secondary that requires a clearance verification I am not able to process through this facility's standard channels. Then you route it through the channel listed on page 4. Something flickers across his face, just for a heartbeat. His hands press flat on the table. "I'll tell you what I'm going to do," he says. "I'm going to flag this as a security irregularity and hold the documentation pending review at command level. That process takes time. And during that time, your record stands as unconfirmed." He pauses. The deliberate kind. "You follow me?" She looks at him, not defiantly, in the specific, measured way of a person who has more information than the conversation requires and has made a choice about what to share. "I follow you, Master Chief." She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. The window shows the parking area. Still empty. Not for long. At 0734, Callahan makes a second phone call. 11 seconds. He is standing outside the building's north exit when he makes it, facing the perimeter road, speaking in the low, precise register of a man delivering information he has verified 3 times. At 0841, the performance record in the field log is reviewed by the NSWC Physical Performance Data Officer, who calls the training facility to confirm the entry is not a data entry error. The entry is confirmed by 3 stopwatches and Callahan's watch and the field timing system. The data officer asks for the name associated with the record. He is given it. He says nothing for 4 seconds, then asks for the name again. He is given it again. He thanks the facility NSO and hangs up. Then he makes a call that lasts 37 seconds. At 0854, 2 vehicles turn in at the north gate. Not standard base vehicles. Command configuration. The kind that carries flags. The kind whose arrival at a facility means the facility's chain of command has already been notified at a level that does not require the facility's permission. Naval Special Warfare Command designation. 2 vehicles that do not need to move quickly, because the outcome was determined before they left. At 0857, Decker is informed that the personnel under his documentation hold are being transferred to command custody. He interprets this as resolution. He brings her from the holding room through the administrative building's main corridor and out to the parking area, choosing the long route through the main entrance, because 44 of the 52 candidates have been moved to the area outside the administrative building for a training briefing that has not started, because no one has been able to focus on anything since 6:08. He brings her out in front of witnesses. He brings her out the long way, because the witnesses are the point. At the exterior door, with 44 candidates and 11 training staff and the command vehicle at 60 feet, Decker closes his hand around her wrist. Not custody. The custody transfer protocol is already in motion. He does it to make one final, physical statement about whose field this is, about what the morning means, about what happens when the wrong person shows up without the right paperwork. His grip tightens. His mouth opens to complete whatever sentence goes with it. Her sleeve rides up. The tattoo is on the inside of her left forearm, just above the wrist. A trident rendered not in the standard form used on uniform insignia, but in the classified form used at one tier above it, the version that exists only in documents with classification markings that most personnel in this parking area have never read and are not cleared to read. Below the trident, a skull with a single horizontal line through it, precise as a calibration mark. Below that, a 4-character designation in a typeface that belongs to one program and one program only. A program that does not appear on any organizational chart. A program that Callahan encountered once 11 years ago on a document he was cleared to transport and not to open. He has been looking at the product of that program since 0515. He says it now. Ghost 7. Barely a sound. Torres, standing 2 feet away, will spend the next week deciding whether he heard it. He heard it. The parking area detonated. Not with noise, with the physics of 44 candidates and 11 training staff ceasing all voluntary motion simultaneously. Someone's clipboard hit the asphalt, not dropped, knocked, by a hand that stopped receiving instructions when the mind stopped processing what it was seeing. The crack of it carried across the parking area and came back off the concrete barrier wall. The wind off the Pacific filled every other gap, the kind of wind that is always there and that nobody notices until the human sounds stop. A boot scuffed asphalt near the back rank. A radio on a training staff belt cycled through its check interval with a click that seemed, in the specific silence of 44 people holding their breath, to be the loudest sound any of them had ever heard. The weight of that silence has texture. It settles over the parking area the way pressure settles, dense, directional, with mass. The lead vehicle door opened. Rear Admiral Patricia Chen, Naval Special Warfare Command, covered the 60 feet to the group in the unhurried pace of someone who does not need to hurry, because the outcome is not a question. She was followed by 2 federal agents whose credentials identified an organization that does not hold press conferences. The Admiral stopped 2 feet from Decker. His hand was still on the wrist. Master Chief. Her voice was the voice of someone who has said many important things in many important places and has learned that a sentence does not need volume to have weight. Release this officer. He released. She turned to face the assembled personnel, 44 candidates, 11 training staff, 3 timing instructors. Callahan, and she spoke for the record, in the specific register of words that will appear in documents. For the full understanding of all personnel currently present, this individual is Commander D. Reeves, Naval Special Warfare Command, Special Programs Directorate, operating under classified designation Ghost 7. Effective this morning at 0608, confirmed on 3 timing instruments and verified by NSWC Data Review, she is the holder of the Naval Special Warfare Physical Performance Record at this installation. Her authority at this facility supersedes every rank present in this parking area, including my own. Every person here answers to her authority. She paused. Every person. The Admiral's hand came up. Precise, unhurried, the geometry of military respect rendered in full regulation form, every component of it visible, for a full 4 counts. The 2 federal agents followed, civilian trained, slightly awkward in the form, correct in the intent. The 11 training staff raised their hands one by one, each running the calculation, each finding only one answer, not simultaneously, person by person, understanding catching each one on its own timeline, the physical response following the moment of understanding. The 3 engineers. The intel officer at the back, who had been having doubts about certain things for 2 weeks and was no longer having them. The 44 candidates raised their hands in a cascade that moved through them like a wave from front to back. Not commanded, not simultaneous. Each person arriving at it alone and in sequence. The understanding traveling through them the way understanding travels through a formation that has just been permanently changed by something. Callahan raised his hand last. He had walked from the east edge of the group to a position 6 feet from the admiral, while everyone else was still computing. He stood there for a moment, 34 years behind him, the face that has forgotten how to be surprised by most things, and raised his hand. His salute was not the admiral's salute, not the candidate's cascade. His was different in what it carried. The others saluted because the calculation had resolved, and there was only one answer. Callahan saluted because he had known since 0515, had added piece to piece in deliberate sequence, had made 3 calls and waited, had been at the window of the holding room and looked at her and walked away, had been at the north exit and kept his voice to 11 seconds, because he could have spoken at any point in the last 3.5 hours and chose not to. A chosen salute, the kind that cannot be commanded. She returned it. Decker did not salute. His hands were at his sides in the complete absence of everything they had always known what to do with. His face moved through 3 phases in approximately 5 seconds. The surface of denial, the structure beneath it beginning to fail, and underneath both of them, something that had the actual architecture of genuine fear. Not performed fear. The kind that arrives when the ground beneath something you spent years building turns out not to be ground. The federal agents flanked him. Neither spoke above a conversational register. "Master Chief Decker, if you'll come with us." Delivered in the flat professional tone of people who have said it many times to many men who were certain they were untouchable, and who have long since stopped being surprised by the expression on their faces. He went. Through the north gate. Without spectacle. Without a final line. With nothing but the institutional machinery of formal charges and the documentation that follows them, assembled over 14 days, thorough and complete and permanent. She did not watch him leave. The facility returned to its training sequence by procedure. Eventually, the candidates went back to their rotation, because the rotation was still there and they were still candidates, and this facility does not stop for anything, which is one of the things that makes it what it is. By 1200, the PT field was running its afternoon session under a different instructor, in the specific October light that comes down on Coronado when the marine layer burns off by midday. She walked to the west end of the field, where the concrete meets the beginning of the path to the beach. He mocked her in front of 52 candidates to show her what this ground was worth and what standing on it required. He forgot she had spent 14 days inside his operation from below, mapping his network, confirming what she already knew, and that the time she put on the board at 0608 was not a demonstration. It was just finishing. The path from the PT field to the beach takes 6 minutes at her pace. The Pacific at 1400 is a specific gray-green, darker than the morning version, heavier than anything the postcards use. The sound of it is constant, the kind of constant that is not background noise, but the actual sound of something much larger than the problems being managed on the land behind her. Her watch reads 1417. Low birds are working the water line to the north. The case against the network above Decker is 3 weeks from conclusion. 2 of the remaining names are already moving through channels that do not require her presence. 1 name is not. 1 name is a face and a signals intercept taken 14 months ago. 4 seconds of thermal footage from a satellite pass over Helmand Province. A figure on a rooftop during the transmission window. Gone before the next pass. A face that has never matched any database she has been given clearance to access. A face that appeared twice and did not appear again. Because whoever it belongs to understood that twice was already one time too many. He is still inside the pipeline. She knows this the way she knows some things, not from the evidence yet assembled, but from the architecture of how the rest of it fits together. He is there. She has not yet found the door. Tomorrow is a different problem. Tonight, 11 operators from a classified operation in Helmand Province are one step closer to what was taken from them. Justice isn't loud, it's patient. And patience, in the right hands, is the most dangerous thing on any field. Somewhere, on a device with no registered number and no traceable history, a laptop receives an encrypted message. 12 characters. No sender ID, no header. The kind of transmission that has already moved through 4 countries and will never be traced back to its origin point. He is still watching. Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVP Stories for more.